If anyone is shocked at the thought of taking a life, why? Because he recognizes it's a human being. It's it's a real thing. Some people, and not some people, everyone, you say even killing an animal is also an experience. You say, but you're allowed to. But still, it's a living thing. You don't want to cause it extra suffering. When you see somebody torturing an animal, it bothers everybody. You don't have to be an animal lover to see that. Why is that? Because, you feel for the animal, you feel for the human being. What is the real truth behind this? The real truth behind this is B'Tselem Elokim Osos Adam. That a human being represents something really out of this world. But for this, to recognize this, you have to be sensitive to this. And most of us are not sensitive to this. We're sensitive to things within the world. We say within the world, this is a crime. So we are sensitive. You're saying we're not sensitive to the presence of the Shekhinah when you have 10 people. You are sensitive. You're sensitive. There's a difference whether you're alone or 2 people or 3 people or 10 people. That's a whole significant thing. But you're not sensitive to the reason why this is so significant. You understand? If you walk into a room and you see a person learning, you have a certain sense of respect. If you see 2 people learning b'chavrusa, you have a deeper sense of respect. If you see a group of people learning together, don't you have even a greater sense of awe, of respect? Shh, don't disturb. Right? Why are you concerned about the people? There's no difference, people. If the people is 1 person or 10 people. Do you recognize there is something bigger going on? And it would be, it's inappropriate to disturb. You understand? Except, I said, we don't realize what's real behind it. What's the real reason behind it? There was a time before the Second World War. There were millions of. Poland was full of Eden. Maybe 3 million people and Jews in Poland alone. They were all wiped out. The majority of them were killed, and most of them were religious Jews. But there was already a wave, the enlightenment, the reform. It had inroads. It made big inroads into Poland, into other countries, into Hungary, Austria. It made inroads. Before the war? Before the war. One of the attitudes that were prevailing, everybody knows what prevailing is, that took hold, that people were constantly pointing to, saying that Yiddishkeit, it's a tradition. People don't really believe in it personally. It's traditional. You do it because your father did it, and he did it because his grandfather did, and so forth. And it's time to reflect, to think it over. Maybe, just follow the tradition is not really the right thing. This was the approach. But the primary thing was that they would downplay, they would insult, so to speak, the intelligence of the Fruma Yidden, saying that you are not really contemplating, realizing what you're doing. You're just doing it by rote because that's the tradition. Right? Just to point out that the war among Son and all the destruction that took place, and the rebuilding of Yiddishkeit from the ashes, from nothing, in America where there was no Yiddishkeit, clearly disproved this accusation. Clearly. Both, under communism, the communist people who woke up from communism, all of a sudden they want Yiddishkeit, and what's going on in Russia now. They thought they would kill it out. It's all nothing. And look, it's come out with a vengeance in America and all that. So this was completely disproved. But how did this accusation come about? Such a deep thing as faith, religion, learning, davening, and keeping Shabbos. So much goes into Yiddishkeit. How did this accusation develop in the first place? You see that you're doing a nice thing. It's a nice tradition. It's beautiful life. But you're not sensitive to the real reason behind it. And you say, oh, it's beautiful. But you're not sensitive to the reason why it's beautiful. You understand? The same, essentially, the point that I made to you. Many people fell for this. And then they were tearing their hair out. How do I get back? How do I get back into this tradition?
So the question would be, how does one make himself sensitive?
Sensitive. Oh. So to become sensitive, this is what learning is about. This is what thinking is about. And the first thing to become sensitive is to direct oneself to pursue that which his intellect directs him, rather than that which he feels, which he desires. If you satisfy your desire, you become insensitive to the finer things. It's automatic. You're sensitive only to that which is concrete, which is tangible. How much does it weigh? How does it taste? How much does it cost? This is the way you judge things. How much does it pay? That's what happens. The cursed, the Germans, Mashma. You know what they had the inscription on the concentration camps? Work frees you. Arbeit macht frei. Where did this come from? This came from accusing Yidden that they are not working. They are davening and learning. They are into spiritual things.
Let's see it again.
or into business, whatever. Even were always, involved in more professional levels. But that's what it is. So you become insensitive. Look at the communists. The communists, they destroy the people, their own people. The Russians, were very sensitive people. Traditionally, are very religious and sensitive people. A lot of very exclusive literature, poetry came from Russia. Music. And they went and they just killed all of that sensitivity. They took the brightest and the best people, sent them away to Siberia. They're too smart for us. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened. So what you see is valid, but now we have to develop and know that what it says is true. Sensitivity is up to the individual. More or less. But that which you identify, that's what I said yesterday. I talked about yesterday, intellect. The first thing is a person to recognize that the intellect is telling him something. That his hand and his foot and his stomach is not going to tell him. To realize that which you recognize, that which your human intellect, just plain human intellect, tells you is real. That's not tradition, not accepted mores. You know what I'm talking about? Accepted mores. You know what the more is? Moral way of acting. This reality, it's real. Respect for a human being is correct. It's not just, I don't want him to get angry at me. It's the correct thing to do, because he is a respectable creature. The Rebbe made a very special, very fine element here. Very fine creature. You have to respect it. You have to respect yourself. It's also part of the creed, part of the rule, of human rule. And it's all real. You start developing that attitude, that perception. You open yourself up to more sensitivity. That's exactly what I tried to explain yesterday. That you can't start understanding Torah and mitzvahs without having a human quality first. Shul Mernfeld listened in yesterday in the class. So he remembers that the first class I gave here, when I first came here, was I told the guys, I had a very good group of them, I told the guys, if you don't make your bed in the morning, you won't be able to understand Chassidus. You remember that? Had a whole talk on Pusha Derech Eretz.
I heard that you said that a lot of people still remember that statement.
All right, so let us continue here. What happened to the other gentleman was here last time? He was taking notes. Huh?
2 days ago.
Yeah.
I guess he's in the other room learning.
In the other room?
Yeah.
Does he know we have a class here?
I don't think so. Is that on?
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't know we have a class.
Yeah, who is it? Menachem. Oh.
Huh?
I think it's easier for him in the easier class. It's happened.
Oh, because he said he enjoyed it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if he doesn't, it's fine with me. I mean, it's just he doesn't know that we're having a class. Okay. What? He's come. He didn't know we were having a class?
No.
What happened? You didn't know we were having a class?
I don't know. I didn't know you were here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for getting.
Okay. We came to a very deep opinion last time, and that's where we stopped. Towards the bottom of the page, it's like 8 lines from the bottom, or actually 7 lines from the bottom. The line begins with the word ha'oilamus. But the Rebbe is explaining now. He says that the inyan of Amunah, that matzah, is not something that we can be massing, that we can comprehend. And because of the Chomer Haguf, and the Chomer Haguf is so effective that we can't even be massing the Koyach Halaki that creates the world. The Dibur Elin that creates the world, which is much lower than the Inyan of Munah of Eloichi that we said, the Inyan of Elokus above world. The Eloichi that comes, that actually is contained in the world. We're not margish. Even though he said that this Inyan, that the Lakus is present in the world, is something that we can actually see, so to speak, with our mind's eye. Sorry, Echzelaka. For my flesh, I see God. Just as in my flesh, I recognize that there is a neshama that sustains my flesh. Without this neshama, the flesh will not be able to persist for one moment. Similarly, by extension to that, when we observe the world and we see the world as a living world, in terms of all the things that are occurring in the world, they're all meaningful and they're all focused onto a single element, a single living world. That shows that there is life in the world. I mean, we discussed last time, but that when we see in the world the element of persistence, like the sun rises every day in exactly the expected time, and sets exactly in time, and there's no diminishing of the power of the sun and all that. That shows that there is a real thing happening. This is the persistence. That real thing, that is a koyach halaki. They explained how this must be a koyach halaki, an infinite koyach. Because if it were a finite koyach, it would have to show a diminishing effect on a continuous basis. Since it does not diminish at all, doesn't show any weakening, that means that it's not affected at all. By extending, by expansion of energy. This is in fact in direct connection to what we just now discussed with your question. We see everything in the world, but we are not sensitive to what it is that we are observing. Everything is happening, and we're taking it for granted, but we're not sensitive to what's really happening. And to the extent to which we're not sensitive is really shocking, because it is conceivable that, and people are presenting these arguments, scientists, they say, like I mentioned last time, that a human being, the neshama, there's no neshama. Who's everybody neshama? It's all an internal combustion. It's an engine that keeps it going. An engine. A machine. And the similar thing is about the observation of the world. It's mind-boggling what's going on in the order and the expanse. Millions of miles, billions of miles. Light years away. That some stars are millions of light years away. You know what that means, light years. And yet everything is so perfectly coordinated. So, without the sensitivity of something significant, what do you say? It's all gravity. It's one element, one body working against another body. That's all it is. Because of the lack of sensitivity. You can observe the most beautiful things, but you're insensitive to the beauty of it. The same, okay, then we go further. Okay, we have the line Ho'olamus, it's 7 lines from the bottom. At the end of the line, V'chein dvorim ruchnim. Likewise, going a step deeper and further, ruchnisdike things, spiritual things, malochim u'neshomis, such as malachim. We don't have an idea what a malach is, but nevertheless we believe in a malach. Neshamas, we also don't have an idea, but neshamas at least we have some proof of it, some experience with it. Also, heim keguf, they are also only like a body, legabe hachayu shebeteichom me'oirei soiboru. They're also only like a body, a much more refined body, and a spiritual body, but nevertheless it's like a body in comparison to the highest of the Ein Sof Shabbataycha, the Ein Sof Baruch. This is what I mentioned the other day, that a human being, the father and mother provide him with his body. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Neisim Bein Neshama. This in HaKadosh Baruch Hu Neisim Bein Neshama. I remember if I mentioned, it's not that the Rebbe took and the Neshama put into him, and the Neshama lives on its own. The Neshama, just as the air that we breathe. So we breathe in air. We breathe in a little bit air, and then we let it out, and then we breathe in more. The experience of living, of life, even though it is due to the air that we breathe in, but the experience of life is that there is air around us all the time. Whichever way I will turn, wherever I will go, I'm going to be able to breathe. What's the matter?
Suddenly I think that everyone is thinking of how they're breathing now.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not even thinking about it. We're not even thinking about it. Why? Because we breathe. We don't even know that. People don't even know that we breathe in air. That there is some. We breathe.
It's automatic.
Automatic. Because we are part of the reality of air. I once explained that that breathing per se, in other words, that the physical element of breathing, you can put two tubes into the nostrils and have an oxygen tank and breathe through from an oxygen tank. But this is not the real experience of life. This is just keeping him alive. But real experience of life is that life is everywhere. Life is everywhere. You don't have to carry your oxygen tank with you. Right? Life is everywhere. The union of the neshama, like Kodesh Baruch Hu neshama, this is saying that Hashem's presence is everywhere, and Hashem provides a neshama element in every person. But the neshama lives because Hashem's presence is everywhere. It's not a separate entity. So that the oil in soil, this is Hashem's presence, which is everywhere, and this is what gives life to the neshama that's in every person, in every group. This is a broad and a deep union, but I want to illustrate to you, even though we are not experiencing the real union of the neshama, but this is true for the neshama itself. I mentioned a while ago, several times I think, that if we were to create a big capsule and load up in the capsule all the needs of a human being, everything that he'll need for 170 years, absolutely everything, including music and entertainment and videos, anything you want, and exercise machines, and seal that capsule and send it out into space. The capsule is flying in no man's land. And this guy is sitting over there and eating away his candy. He doesn't want a candy, he gets a cookie. He doesn't want a cookie, he eats meat. He doesn't want meat, he eats potatoes. Whatever it is. Should be very happy, right? It's the most miserable thing. The most miserable thing, because you're missing life. Even at this low level of experiencing life, life of the neshama means being part of a bigger life. It's not the individual's life. And the neshama is only a recipient of the oir ein sof that comes into it. That's what the neshama is. It's not an independent life. You once explained the similar in, I think here also. Remember I explained about the name? About a name, the significance of a name. A name, Sheishes explains, a name is a very external thing. Remember that? It's an external thing. It has nothing to do with the person. The person, he's not even born with a name. The name is given to him afterwards. And yet, the name represents his very essence. This is why when a person is in faint, you can wake him up by calling his name. What's in the name that's so essential? That's his essence. That means bigger than himself. The name represents not him, but the world he came into. That's what the name is. This is the name by which he's known into the world. He's known to other people. So that life does not consist in internal living. The real life is how it is connected and draws life from the bigger picture, and ultimately from where it's safe. And that is all thing. This is all part of our vision. This is echazeh. We can see it, so to speak, intellectually, and recognize the truth of this. Okay, so the neshamas and malachim, they're like a goof. What does the neshama represent? The chayes that the Rebbe puts in. What is a malach? The chayes that the Rebbe puts into him. Hamahava or mechaya, the oil in soif is mahava, makes it be, creates it into being. Umechaya and puts life into it. Umekaya moisa. And then it sustains it. The principle of sustenance, Makayim, is a separate concept, even from Makayim. I'll give you a simple illustration, simple example. The person designs a car, designs some kind of machinery, a car. And it's a very smart design. And then he goes and he actually builds this car. And everything is really very smart. Then he goes and he takes his car to market. And the market says it's not marketable. It's not usable on the general market. It's very smart, it's a very good design, but it's not usable in the general market for one reason or another. What happens to the car? Goes into the heap of garbage. If it is marketable, and it is useful in the general populace, and then it's going to be developed, and it's going to last, and last and last. So what makes it last? Not its design, something different, its usefulness. Something spiritual, essentially. You know, people like it. People don't like it. It's not even, it's its design, and it's smart and everything, that. The guy the engineer who designed it says, "What are you doing to me?" He says, "My whole wisdom isn't it." It's useless.
Well, I don't understand why people don't like it because of or it's expensive, or it's not comfortable. Why it's spiritually?
People don't like it. You can't even tell why. It didn't strike you. Certainly not necessarily because of some practical, definitive reason. Sometimes people are turned off by the name. Sometimes they're turned off by the tailpipe. I don't care, whatever it is. I'm just giving you, of course, this is a very low-level expression, example, but I'm giving you an example to understand that in order for something to last, it has to be more than what is being built. It has to be a spirit around it. Something more generally meaningful than just its structure and design. This, more generally meaningful, this is in the general world and in everything in the world, in the Shama and the Guf and the Malach. This is the godly spark. This is what gives it the general meaning, that it's going to last more than a day. It's going to continue on indefinitely. Because it has a real godly meaning, significance. This is the key. In addition to its build, in addition to its design, to the creation, that it has a real meaning to the point that it's going to be niskayim. Yeah, are you with me? I want to elaborate on this. The reason I want to elaborate on this because this also points up the falsity, the falsity and the error, the gross error that's going around in the scientific world. The way the world views, and this is important because I explained to you the other day that even though we're not studying science, but the philosophy that's prevailing is touching everyone. The view of the world, view of life touched everyone. And one of the principles with which they designed to find the world is that, do you ever hear the expression, survival of the fittest? Survival of the fittest. And one that's more fit, one that's stronger. Call the Alim Gvar. You know what I'm saying? The one who is stronger, he will prevail. Huh? That's right. Eat or be eaten. That's right. This is the view of the world. That the reason that one survives is because he fought for his survival. He turned out to be stronger than his neighbor. Everyone in the world is your enemy. You survive only if you're going to overcome your enemy. That's their perception. So I'm not going to elaborate on that stupidity. I just want to show that we have a completely different perspective. The kiyum, what gives something kiyum, is that it has a value. It has a godly value. It has a godly spark. It has an eternal quality. This is why it continues to be. The kiyum is from Elokus, from Ein Sof. The kiyum is from Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is Mekayim, gives it a kiyum, because the Ein Sof gives it a real, limitless, eternal value. Everything in the world that Rebbe created, every species, every living thing, and most importantly, the human being. The human being, as a species, is eternal, right? Eternal. It procreates and it goes on indefinitely. This eternity in the human being is not because the human being creates that power, but because there's an eternal value in the human being. He represents something eternal. The fact that an individual person cannot survive eternally, that's a separate thing. Really, an individual person should be able to survive eternally because his neshama is eternal. Because of the Chetes Adas, because of whatever happened, that the goof is not able to regenerate itself for too long, that's why it stops. But the human being represents really an eternal life. And this is why that the human species per se really has an eternal quality to it. And we can see this in the fact that as long as the human being exists, 5,000 years, and we are, let's say, in Torah, we are learning the same things that our fathers learned, that our grandfathers learned. We have been something I learned 100 years and 200 and 1,000 years, and yet there is always something new. We're always bringing out some new insights, new ideas, new way of explaining it. Because there's eternity in the world, and our human being has that ability to reveal eternally. Imagine if there were nothing. There's a document that says this is an interesting thing. Someplace in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe in the 1800s. In the 1800s in this country, there is a patent office. Patent. You might know. You know what a patent is? Patent. Huh?
You make up something? So
yeah, you may. So there's an office, a government office that registers your patent, that gives you a number, and that guarantees that nobody is going to be able to steal your patent. It's a patent office. And patent office employs a lot of employees, and it costs money for the government to maintain it. So at some point during the 1800s, the manager, the secretary who was in charge of the patent office, recommended to Congress that they close the office because everything that there is to be invented has already been invented.
That's a nice pattern.
It's not a joke.
That's a nice pattern. Close the office because
There's nothing more to be invented. Finished.
Very optimistic.
What?
Very optimistic.
Very limited-minded. Not understanding the human being. Not understanding the world. Very small. They thought the industrial revolution, oh, that was such an invention of a human being, really. The Rebbe created a human being. There's no limit. The Baal Shem Tov said, 250 years before, Baal Shem Tov said that the Rebbe has put in the earth such secrets that all scientists, all the wisest people in the world will never get to the bottom of it. So there's plenty to discover forever. In this little earth, this is the key. This is the key. This is why it goes on and on and on. Because there's infinity in every individual person, in the human being in the world. This comes from the Oir Sof. If anyone feels bored sometimes, what am I here? What am I going to do? I've got nothing to do. Remember this discussion. You're about ready to close the patent office.
there's always something to do.
What?
There's always something to do. Always another level. Everything.
Every person is another world. Every individual person is another world. No two people are alike. This is part of the infinity that they should put into the world. What's the point of my life? What's the point? Okay, my kids, how am I going to contribute to the world? It's another world. It's another world. 2 kids, it's 2 worlds.
4 kids, yeah.
They're what?
Abba.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, this is the end of my matter.